Part 1. The sky was burning and could not stop shaking. She held her daughter against her chest and tried to breathe, but the air was full of smoke and ash. 3 days ago their world had been peaceful. 3 days ago she had been teaching young ones at the learning center while her husband worked in the healing halls. 3 days ago had been playing with her friends in the garden near their home. Now there was nothing left. They had come from the stars and they had brought death with them. Her people were tall and thin with skin that glowed softly like moonlight. They had 4 fingers on each hand and their eyes were large and silver. They were beautiful creatures who loved art and music and learning. They had never built weapons because they believed that all beings could talk and find peace. They had been wrong. They did not want to talk. They wanted to destroy. The first ships had appeared without warning. Remembered looking up from her morning meal and seeing dark shapes blocking out the sun, had grabbed her hand and told her to take and run. He said he would follow them soon. He said he loved them both more than anything in all the stars. Then he had kissed on her forehead and pushed them toward the door. That was the last time saw him. She felt it when he died. They could form bonds with the ones they loved, and she had felt his warmth vanish like a candle going out in the wind. He was gone and she could not even cry for him because she had to keep moving. She had to keep alive. For 3 days they had run and hidden and run again. They were everywhere. Their soldiers were huge and covered in black armor that looked like the shells of insects. Their eyes glowed red and they carried weapons that could melt stone. They did not take prisoners. They did not show mercy. They simply killed everything that moved. Now and were hiding in the ruins of what had once been a home. The walls were mostly gone and the roof had collapsed on one side. But there was a small space beneath a fallen beam where they could hide from the patrols. Had not slept in 2 days. She had given the last of their water to that morning. Her leg was burned from a near miss by a weapon and every step sent pain shooting through her body. But she could not stop. She could not give up. Her daughter needed her. Was only 6 cycles old. She was small even for a child with silver hair that fell past her shoulders and eyes that seemed too wise for her age. She had not cried since the first day. Did not know if that was bravery or shock, but it broke her heart either way. No child should have to see what had seen. No child should have to be so quiet and still just to stay alive. The sound of ground vehicles grew louder. They were sweeping through this area now and checking every ruin for survivors. Knew they would find this hiding spot soon. There was nowhere left to run. The mountain passes were too far and her leg would not carry her that distance. This was the end. She had failed. She had tried so hard to save her daughter and she had failed. Tears rolled down her face as she pressed her forehead against. She wanted to tell her daughter that everything would be okay, but she could not lie to her. Not now, not at the end. Then she heard something new. It was not the rumble of machines. It was sharper and higher and it came from above. Looked up through a gap in the ruined roof and saw a ship descending through the smoke. It was not a ship. The shape was different. It was angular and painted in colors she did not recognize, blue and white and gray. There were markings on its side, but she could not read them. The vehicles stopped moving. Could hear their commanders shouting orders in that clicking language she had come to hate. They were confused. They had not expected anyone else to come to this dying world. The strange ship landed in an open area not far from where and were hiding. For a long moment nothing happened. Then a door opened on the side of the ship and a figure stepped out. Had never seen anything like it. The creature was shorter than but much broader. Its skin was a strange pinkish color and it had hair only on the top of its head. It wore some kind of uniform in dark colors and it was carrying a weapon. But the weapon was small compared to what they carried. This creature looked soft and fragile compared to the armored monsters that were hunting them. The creature looked around at the destruction. Even from this distance could see something change in its face. Its expression shifted from curiosity to something else. Something that looked like anger. No, not anger, something deeper. It looked like the expression had worn when he heard that a child in the healing halls was suffering. It was the look of someone who cared. The creature began moving through the ruins. It was searching for something, pulled closer and held her breath. She did not know if this new being was friend or enemy. She did not know if it would help them or hurt them. All she knew was that the had started shooting at the creature and it was still coming. Plasma bolts flew past it and struck the ground nearby, but it kept moving. It ducked behind cover and fired back with its small weapon and then moved again. It was heading toward them. His heart pounded in her chest. She could hear the creature getting closer. Its footsteps were different from footsteps, lighter, faster. Then suddenly it was there. It was standing in the gap of the ruined wall and looking right at them. Screamed, she could not help it. She threw herself over and begged. She did not even know if this creature could understand her words, but she begged anyway. She said, "Please do not hurt us." She said, "Take me, but spare my daughter." She said, "She is just a child. Please, please." The creature stopped moving. It put its weapon away slowly. Then it held up its hands with the palms facing toward her. It crouched down until it was at her level, and then it spoke. Could not understand the words. Her translator was damaged and struggling to process this new language. But she understood the tone. It was soft. It was gentle. It was the tone someone used when they were trying to calm a frightened animal or a frightened mother. The creature kept talking in that soft voice. It did not move any closer. It just stayed there with its hands up and its voice calm. Then moved. She wriggled free from her mother's arms and looked at the creature. She tilted her head the way she always did when she was thinking hard about something. Then she reached out and tugged on her mother's sleeve. Looked down at her daughter through her tears, was smiling. It was a small smile, but it was real. It was the first time had seen her daughter smile in 3 days. The little girl whispered, "Don't cry, Mom. That human could help us." Part 2. Stared at her daughter in shock. The word had used was strange and unfamiliar. Human. Had never heard it before. She did not know what it meant or how her daughter could possibly know what this creature was called. "How do you know that?" asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. "How do you know what he is?" Looked up at her mother with those silver eyes that sometimes seemed to see things no one else could see. "I can feel it," she said. "I can feel the warmth of living things. You taught me that. And he is warm inside. He is very warm, like Father was." His breath caught in her throat. Had always had the strongest life warmth she had ever felt. It was one of the reasons she had fallen in love with him. To hear compare this strange creature to her father made something shift inside her heart. The human was still crouching there with his hands up. He had not moved. He was waiting. He was being patient with them even though could hear the getting closer. This creature was risking its own life by staying here and trying to earn their trust. Slowly uncurled herself from around her daughter. Her burned leg screamed in pain, but she ignored it. She looked at the human's face. It was so different from a face. The eyes were smaller and set closer together. The skin was rough and there was hair growing on his jaw, but his eyes were kind. She could see that now. They were the eyes of someone who wanted to help. The human spoke again. This time her damaged translator caught enough of the words to give her meaning. "My ship, close, safe there, I take you." His grammar was broken because the translator was struggling but understood. He was offering them a way out. He was offering them safety. She did not think about it anymore. She grabbed his hand and nodded at the human. He smiled. It was a strange expression on his strange face, but it was warm. Then he stood up and held out his hand to help her rise. Took it. His hand was different from a hand. It had 5 fingers instead of 4 and the skin was rougher. But his grip was gentle. He helped her up carefully, and when he saw her wince from the pain in her leg, his expression changed to one of concern. "Hurt," he said, pointing at her leg. "I carry child, you walk okay." Hesitated but then nodded. She could not carry and walk at the same time, not with her leg like this. The human crouched down and opened his arms toward. The little girl did not hesitate. She walked right up to him and let him pick her up. He held her carefully with one arm supporting her weight while his other hand stayed near his weapon. Stay close, he said to, move fast, quiet. Then he started walking, followed as quickly as her injured leg would allow. The human moved differently from His steps were heavier but also more sure. He seemed to know exactly where to put his feet to avoid making noise. His head kept turning left and right as he watched for danger. He was a soldier. She could see that now. This was someone who had been trained to fight and survive. The sound of vehicles was very close now. Could hear them shouting to each other in their clicking language. They were searching for the human who had shot at them. They wanted blood. The human stopped suddenly and pressed himself against a broken wall. He gestured for to do the same. She flattened herself against the stone and held her breath. 3 soldiers walked past them. They were so close that could smell the chemical scent of their armor. Their red eyes scanned the ruins, but they did not look up. They did not see the human and the 2 hiding in the shadows just above their heads. His heart was pounding so hard she was sure they could hear it, but they walked on. They did not find them. The human waited until the soldiers were far away. Then he tapped on the shoulder and pointed forward. She could see his ship now. It was sitting in a clearing about 50 steps away. The door was still open and there were lights inside. They moved quickly. The human was almost running now and had to push through the pain to keep up. Her leg felt like it was on fire, but she did not stop. She could not stop. Safety was so close. They were 20 steps from the ship when spotted them. The soldier let out a loud clicking roar and raised its weapon. Saw the barrel glow as it charged up to fire. The human spun around. In one smooth motion he passed to and drew his weapon. He fired twice. Both shots hit in the chest and the soldier fell backward, but the damage was done. The other had heard the roar. They knew where the humans were now. Go, the human shouted. Ship now, run. Did not argue. She grabbed and ran. Her leg screamed at her, but she ignored it. She reached the ship and stumbled through the open door. Inside there was another human. This one was female with short brown hair and a worried expression. Danny, what the hell, the female human said. Then she saw and her expression changed. She reached out and helped to a seat. Okay, we got you, you're safe now. Did not understand all the words, but she understood the tone. She looked back toward the door. The male human was still outside. He was firing at the who were now pouring into the clearing. His weapon made sharp cracking sounds that were so different from the deep hum of plasma guns. He was backing toward the ship, but he was not running. He was covering their escape. 3 fell, then 4, then 5, but more kept coming. Danny, get in here, the female human screamed. The male human fired 2 more shots and then threw himself through the door. The female human hit a button, and the door slammed shut behind him just as a plasma bolt struck where he had been standing. Shields up, the male human said. He was breathing hard and there was blood on his arm. Get us out of here, Amy. The female human ran to the front of the ship, heard her saying things she could not understand. Then the ship shook and she felt a strange pulling sensation in her stomach. They were rising. They were leaving the ground. Through a window could see the getting smaller below them. They were firing up at the ship, but the shots seemed to hit something invisible before reaching the hull. The shields. The humans had shields. Then they were through the clouds and the sky turned from orange to black. Stars appeared all around them. Had never been in space before. She had never left her world. Now her world was burning below her, and she was in a ship full of strangers who had risked everything to save her and her daughter. The male human sat down heavily on the floor near her. He was pressing his hand against his wounded arm. Blood was seeping through his fingers, but he was smiling. We made it, he said. Then he looked at, hello, little one, I am Daniel. What is your name? Smiled back at him. I am, thank you for saving us, Daniel. Daniel's smile grew wider. You are welcome, you are very brave. Felt tears running down her face again, but this time they were not tears of fear. They were tears of something else, something she had not felt in 3 days. Hope. Part 3. The ship was called the Horizon, and it was small but fast. Amy told them this while she guided them through the narrow corridors toward a room she called the limped along with holding her hand. Daniel walked behind them with his wounded arm pressed against his chest. It was white and clean with strange machines that beeped and hummed. A third human was waiting there. He was a male with black hair and kind eyes behind small pieces of glass that sat on his face. Amy called him and said he was their healer. Looked at Daniel first. "What did you do this time?" he asked. His voice sounded tired but also fond. "Saved some people," Daniel said. "Got shot a little." Shook his head, but he was smiling. "Sit down, you idiot. Let me look at it." Daniel sat on one of the beds and began examining his arm. Watched in fascination as the human healer used tools she had never seen before. He cleaned the wound and applied something that made Daniel hiss in pain. Then he wrapped it in white cloth and told Daniel to rest. "Now," said, turning to Anne, "let me look at you too." Was nervous. She had never been treated by an alien healer before. She did not know if human medicine would work on bodies, but walked right up to and held out her arm. "I am not hurt," said, "but my mother's leg is burned. Please help her." His expression softened. He knelt down to be its level. "You are very brave, little one. I will take good care of your mother, I promise." He examined his leg carefully. His touch was gentle even though his hands were larger and rougher than hands. He used a small device to scan the burn and then frowned at the results. "This is bad," he said, "but I can fix it. It will hurt for a moment. Is that okay?" Nodded. She had endured pain before. She could endure more. Applied something cold to her leg, and suddenly the pain disappeared. She gasped in surprise. Then he used another tool that made a soft humming sound as he moved it over the burned skin. Watched in amazement as the wound began to close. The damaged skin peeled away and new skin grew in its place. Within minutes her leg looked almost normal. "Skin heals faster than human skin," said. "That is good. You will be fine in a few hours." "Thank you," said. The words felt small compared to what she was feeling. This human had healed her without asking for anything in return. He had not even hesitated. Amy appeared in the doorway. Her expression was serious. "Danny, we have a problem." Daniel stood up immediately. "What is it?" "3 cruisers just entered orbit. They're blocking our escape route, and command is on the line. They want to talk to you." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Put them through." They walked to the front of the ship where large windows showed the stars outside. A screen on the wall flickered and then showed the face of another human. This one was older with gray hair and a stern expression. He wore a uniform covered in colorful symbols. "Lieutenant Commander," the older human said, "do you want to explain to me why you violated direct orders and flew into an active war zone?" Daniel stood straight and faced the screen. "Admiral, there was a distress signal. An entire species was being wiped out. I could not just ignore that." "You could and you should have," the Admiral said. "They are a major power. We are not at war with them. If they decide your actions constitute an act of aggression, we could be looking at a full-scale conflict." "With respect, Admiral, they were committing genocide. Women and children were being slaughtered. I was not going to fly away and let that happen." The Admiral's expression did not change. "Your feelings do not matter here. Protocol exists for a reason. You will return to base immediately and face a formal review." Stepped forward before she knew what she was doing. Daniel tried to stop her, but she pushed past him. "Please," she said to the face on the screen, "please do not punish this man. He saved my life. He saved my daughter. My entire world is dying, and he was the only one who came to help us. If your people are all like him, then there is still good in this universe. Please do not punish him for being good." The Admiral stared at her for a long moment. His expression was unreadable. Then he looked back at Daniel. "Who is this?" "One of the survivors, sir. Her name is. The child is her daughter." The Admiral was quiet for another long moment, could see something shifting behind his eyes. She did not know what it was, but she hoped it was something like understanding. "You have 2 civilians on board," the Admiral said finally. His voice was different now, softer. "The will want them back. They do not like leaving survivors." "I know, sir. They will come after you." "I know that too, sir." The Admiral leaned back in his chair. He rubbed his face with one hand. "Damn it, do you have any idea how much paperwork you just created for me?" Daniel's lips twitched. "Sorry, sir." "No, you are not." The Admiral sighed heavily. "All right, here is what is going to happen. You will hold your position. I am dispatching the 3rd Fleet to your location. They should arrive within 6 hours. Until then you stay alive. That is an order." "Understood, sir." "And—" "Yes, sir." The Admiral's stern expression cracked just a little. Something that might have been a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Good work. Now do not die before I can yell at you in person." The screen went dark. Daniel let out a long breath. Amy was staring at him with wide eyes. "Did that just happen?" she asked. "Did the Admiral just compliment you?" "I think he did." Daniel shook his head in disbelief. "I also think I am still getting court-martialed when we get back." Touched his arm. "What is court-martialed?" Daniel smiled at her. It was a tired smile, but a real one. "It means I might get in trouble for what I did, but do not worry, it was worth it." Walked up and hugged Daniel's leg. She was too small to reach any higher. "You are a good person, Daniel," she said. "The universe needs more good people." Daniel crouched down and looked into her silver eyes. "You know what? I think you are right." Outside the window, the stars continued to shine. Somewhere out there, the 3rd Fleet was coming. Somewhere out there's world was still burning. But here in this small ship surrounded by these strange, kind creatures, felt something she had not felt in days. She felt safe. Part 4. They found them 3 hours before the fleet was supposed to arrive. Amy saw them first on her scanner. She called out the warning in a voice that was calm but tight with fear. "Danny, we have incoming. 2 fighter wings and a cruiser. They will be in weapons range in 10 minutes. Daniel was at her side in an instant. His wounded arm was wrapped in white cloth, but he moved like the injury did not exist. "Can we outrun them?" "Not a chance. The cruiser is faster than us in a straight line, and those fighters will cut us off if we try to change direction." Felt the fear rising in her chest again. It was the same fear she had felt on her when the first came. The fear of knowing that death was coming, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Squeezed her hand. "It will be okay, Mother." "How do you know?" "Because Daniel is here. He will not let them hurt us." Looked at Daniel. He was staring at the scanner with an expression she did not recognize. It was not fear. It was not panic. It was something harder and colder. It was the look of someone doing math in their head, someone calculating odds and options. "Amy," Daniel said slowly, "what about the asteroid field at coordinates 773? Amy's eyes widened. "Danny, that field is a death trap. The rocks are too dense. One wrong move and we are space dust." "We are space dust anyway if we stay out here. At least in the field we have a chance. The fighters are big. They will have trouble following us through the gaps." Amy was quiet for a moment, then she nodded. Okay, you crazy fool, setting course now." The ship lurched as Amy changed direction. Through the window could see the stars spinning around them. Then she saw something else. A massive cloud of gray shapes floating in space ahead of them. Rocks. Thousands and thousands of rocks of every size. Some were small as houses. Others were large as mountains. They tumbled and crashed into each other in a slow, endless dance. "Hold on to something," Amy called. "This is going to be rough." Pulled onto her lap and wrapped her arms around her. Appeared beside them and helped strap them into seats that folded down from the wall. Daniel stayed standing at the front of the ship with his hand gripping a bar above his head. They entered the asteroid field. It was like nothing had ever experienced. The ship twisted and turned and ducked and weaved. Rocks flew past the windows so close that was sure they would hit. But Amy was good. She was very good. Her hands moved across the controls with a speed and precision that was almost beautiful. She dodged obstacles that appeared out of nowhere. She threaded through gaps that seemed too small for the ship to fit. Behind them, the followed. "They are still coming," said. He was watching a small screen near his seat. "Wait, one of the fighters just hit an asteroid. It is gone, but the others are still on us." Daniel smiled grimly. "Good, keep going, Amy, deeper into the field." Another fighter crashed, then another, but the cruiser was still coming. It was too big to navigate the dense parts of the field, but it was smart enough to go around them. It was waiting for the horizon to come back out into open space. "Danny, I am running out of room," Amy said. Her voice was strained now. "The field gets too thick up ahead. We cannot keep going this direction." "Then we stop here." Daniel turned to face the rest of them. His expression was calm, too calm. "We hide, we go dark, power down everything and drift. Maybe they pass us by." Amy looked at him like he was insane. "And if they find us?" Daniel did not answer. He did not need to. Everyone knew what would happen if they found them. The horizon powered down. The lights dimmed until they were almost off. The hum of the engines faded to silence. The ship became just another rock floating in the darkness. Held tightly and tried not to breathe too loudly. She could hear her own heart beating in the silence. She could hear soft breathing against her chest. She could hear the distant creaking of the ship's hull as it drifted through the cold. Time passed. Minutes felt like hours. Then whispered, "The cruiser is moving. It is coming this way." Closed her eyes. She wanted to pray, but she did not know who to pray to anymore. The gods had not saved her world. They had not saved. Why would they save her now? Shifted in her arms. The little girl pressed her mouth close to her mother's ear. Mother whispered, "I am scared." Felt her heart break. She had tried so hard to be strong for her daughter. She had tried to be brave. But now in the darkness, with death coming closer, she did not know what to say. "I am scared too," she admitted. "But we are together. Whatever happens, we are together. I do not want to die." "Neither do I, little one. Neither do I." Daniel moved in the darkness. He crouched down in front of them, and even though could barely see his face, she could hear the warmth in his voice. He said softly, "Do you remember what I told you on the planet about my people? You said humans are stubborn." "That is right. We are very stubborn. We do not give up even when things look bad. And right now things look bad, but I want you to know something. I am not going to let anything happen to you or your mother. I made a promise to myself when I picked you up in those ruins. I promised that I would get you somewhere safe, and I always keep my promises." Was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and touched Daniel's face with her small four-fingered hand. "I believe you," she said. The cruiser came closer. Everyone held their breath. Then Amy made a small sound. It was not a word. It was just a quick intake of breath, but it made everyone turn toward her. "The cruiser," she said. "It is leaving. It is turning away." Daniel stood up slowly. "What?" "It is leaving. They all are. The whole force is pulling back." Was checking his screen frantically. Why? Why would they leave? The answer came a moment later when the space around them lit up with the light of dozens of ships dropping out of hyperspace. They were big ships, warships, and on their hulls were the same markings that the horizon carried. The third fleet had arrived 3 hours early. Daniel laughed. It was a loud, relieved laugh that filled the dark ship. Amy joined in, even allowed himself a smile. Did not laugh. She cried. She cried with relief and joy and gratitude. She held close and let the tears fall, and for the first time in days she believed that they might actually survive. Looked up at her and smiled. "See, Mother, I told you Daniel would not let them hurt us." Laughed through her tears. Yes, you did, little one. Yes, you did. Part 5. The flagship of the Third Fleet was called the Liberty, and it was the largest ship had ever seen. It was so big that the horizon could fit inside it 100 times. When they docked in its massive landing bay, had to stop and stare. She could not believe that any species could build something so grand. Admiral was waiting for them at the bottom of the boarding ramp. He was older than he had looked on the screen, with deep lines around his eyes and gray hair cut short against his head. He stood straight and tall in his uniform, and his expression was unreadable. Daniel walked down the ramp first. He stopped in front of the Admiral and saluted. "Sir, Lieutenant Commander Daniel reporting." The Admiral looked at him for a long moment. The entire landing bay was silent. Hundreds of human soldiers and crew members were watching. Then the Admiral did something that surprised everyone. He reached out and pulled Daniel into a hug. "You scared the hell out of me, son," the Admiral said. His voice was rough. "When we lost contact with you in that asteroid field, I thought we were too late." Daniel hugged him back. "Sorry, sir, old habits." The Admiral pulled back and looked at him with something that was almost like pride. "Old habits indeed. Your father was the same way, always running toward danger instead of away from it." Did not understand everything they were saying, but she understood that there was history here, that these two humans knew each other in a way that went beyond rank and duty. Then the Admiral turned to face her, and his stern expression softened as he looked at the little girl holding her mother's hand. "You must be the survivors," he said. "I am Admiral. On behalf of the Terran Union, I want to welcome you aboard. You are safe now. I give you my word." Bowed her head. "Thank you, Admiral. Thank you for sending your ships. Thank you for saving us." "You can thank this stubborn young man for that. He is the one who refused to leave you behind." The Admiral looked at Daniel with that mix of exasperation and affection that seemed to define their relationship. "He is also the one who is going to spend the next month doing paperwork as punishment, but that is a conversation for later." Stepped forward. She looked up at the tall human Admiral with her silver eyes full of curiosity. "Are you Daniel's father?" The Admiral blinked in surprise. Then he laughed. It was a deep, warm laugh that made the lines around his eyes crinkle. "No, little one. I am not his father, but I was a friend of his father, a long time ago." "Is his father gone?" The Admiral's laughter faded. He glanced at Daniel, who gave a small nod. Then he crouched down to be its level. "Yes," he said gently. "Daniel's father died many years ago. He was a brave man. He saved a lot of lives." Nodded solemnly. "Daniel is like his father then. He saved our lives too." The Admiral looked at the little girl for a long moment. Then he stood up and turned to address the crowd that had gathered in the landing bay. "Listen up, everyone. We are changing course. They are still in the system committing atrocities against innocent people. That ends today. We are going to push them back. We are going to show them that the Terran Union does not stand by while genocide happens. Anyone who has a problem with that can file a complaint after we save some lives." A cheer went up from the crowd. It started small but grew until it filled the entire bay. Humans of all types were shouting and clapping and stamping their feet, stared at them in wonder. These people were ready to go to war for a species they had never met. They were ready to risk their lives for strangers. Daniel appeared at her side. "That is humanity for you," he said. "We are not perfect. We fight among ourselves all the time. But when we see someone who needs help, we cannot look away. It is in our nature." Shook her head slowly. "We always believed that war was the worst thing any species could do, that violence was never the answer. But now I wonder if we were wrong. Sometimes violence is necessary to protect the innocent." "Violence is always the last choice," Daniel said. "But yes, sometimes it is necessary. The trick is knowing when." "How do you know?" Daniel looked at. The little girl was watching the cheering crowd with wide, amazed eyes. "You look at the people you are protecting, and you ask yourself if they are worth fighting for. If the answer is yes, then you fight, no matter the cost. The fleet changed course. Within hours, they were back in the system. The battle that followed would become one of the most famous in human history. 17 warships were destroyed. Thousands of survivors were rescued from the burning planet below. They were driven back for the first time in a century, but did not see any of that. She and were kept safe in the depths of the Liberty where the fighting could not reach them. They waited in a small room with beds and food and clean clothes, and they waited for news. When Daniel finally came to see them, he was different. He was tired and there were new bandages on his arms and face, but he was smiling. "It is over," he said. "They are gone, your people are safe. Well, the ones who survived anyway. We rescued about 30,000 from the surface." Felt tears spring to her eyes. 30,000. It was such a small number compared to the billions who had lived on her world. But it was something. It was a future. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we take your people somewhere safe. There is a planet called New Eden about 40 light years from here. It is empty, but it has everything you need. Clean water, good soil, forests and oceans. The Terran Union has agreed to let your people settle there." "And will they come for us again?" Daniel's expression hardened. "Let them try. The Union is putting a permanent fleet in orbit around New Eden. If they want your people, they will have to go through us. And I promise you, they will not get through us." Jumped off her bed and ran to Daniel. She threw her arms around his waist and hugged him tightly. "Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for everything." Daniel hugged her back. "You are welcome, but can I tell you a secret?" "What?" "You saved us too. When you told your mother not to be afraid of me. When you believed that I could help. That gave me hope. And sometimes hope is the most powerful thing in the universe." Looked up at him with those wise silver eyes. "Will we see you again?" "I will visit, I promise. And remember what I said about promises. You always keep them." "That is right." Walked over and put her hand on Daniel's shoulder. "My people will never forget what humans did for us. We will tell this story to our children, and they will tell it to their children. 1,000 generations from now will still speak the name Daniel, the human who did not look away." Daniel's cheeks turned slightly red. Had learned that this meant a human was embarrassed. It was strange to see such a brave man become shy at simple words. "I was just doing what anyone would do," he said. "No," said firmly. "You were doing what humans do, and that is something special, something rare in this universe." 6 months later stood on the surface of New Eden and watched her daughter play with other children in a field of purple flowers. The sky was blue like the sky of Earth in the pictures Daniel had shown her. The air was clean and sweet. It was a good world, a new beginning. A ship descended from the sky and landed nearby. Smiled when she saw the familiar markings on its hull. Daniel walked down the ramp and ran to meet him. He picked her up and spun her around while she laughed with pure joy. Walked over to join them. She was not afraid anymore. She was not running. She was home. And somewhere out in the vast darkness of space, the story was already spreading. The story of the humans who had come to save a dying world. The story of a little girl who had looked at a stranger and seen a friend. The story of hope.